Today, every day, small cap investors visit Agoracom knowing this is the day to discover the world's next great company, to have their dreams come true. That's why I take to the open road, to find them, to tell their stories, to engage them, to bring them to life, because they want to connect with you from your office, your phone, your home, anywhere. Agoracom, find your dream.
Welcome to Beyond the Press Release, a production of Agoracom, in which we take the time to speak with small cap executives about recent important news. With us today, I'm happy to have again Peter Pascali. He's President and CEO of PyroGenesis. The company trades on the TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol PYR, and for our friends in the US on the QB under PYRNF. Now, for those of you who are new to the story, and that's going to be some of you, PyroGenesis is the world leader in advanced plasma processes. What does that mean in layman's terms? More than just lip service. Their technology is already in use on U.S. aircraft carriers to vaporize waste and has already been successfully tested by DARPA to destroy chemical weapons. That's the agency of the U.S. Department of Defense that's responsible for the development of emerging technologies for use by the military. That alone is great. On top of that, the company's titanium powder division, which is being used for 3D printing, has already received major orders, some we're going to talk about today, as well as interest from some of the world's biggest companies, including NDAs with some of the world's largest airplane engine manufacturers. And finally, if that's not enough, the company's Drosrite system, which maximizes metal recovery from waste generated in the metallurgical industry. Pardon me, everyone, that's a lot to say. Just achieved great success in India. It's a monumental feat for any small cap company to get just one of these going at such a high level of success, let alone three. That's why I call Peter the Elon Musk of the Canadian small cap world. Peter, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me back, George.
We're so happy to have you back. Beyond the Press Release typically talks about one great press release. You put out two unbelievable press releases this week. It seems like you're achieving incredible success on the other side of the world, in India and in parts unknown in Asia, because you weren't allowed to be specific in your press release, but in that region. Let's first talk about this commercial agreement for the sale of titanium powders.
Yes.
You're going to sell, it looks like, a minimum of 10,000 kilos, 10 tons over 2 years. Before we get into specifics, what does it mean to your company and to your shareholders to be able to announce this kind of agreement and consummate it?
Well, George, you have to take that type of news in the context of where we were just a year ago. And just a year ago, about last March, hardly anybody knew who we were. We didn't have a system up and running. And today we're writing contracts for multi-thousands of kilograms of powder. For us, it underscores the strategy and that we're on the right path. And we're very excited about that particular contract from that perspective.
Now, what I found impressive is you weren't able to name the client. In fact, you weren't even really able to get specific with what part of Asia. So this is me reading between the lines that this is obviously a significant player in the additive manufacturing space. Am I on the right track there?
I would say so.
So I see, and I'm going to read here. We were qualified as an approved supplier by the client.
Yes.
What does it mean to you guys that obviously to get that kind of validation that they tested the product and had to test you in order to get this deal done?
So I just wanted to make clear, because in the previous press release, I said one of the next milestones would be to become an approved supplier. And I just wanted to make sure that people understood that, with that type of a contract in place, it goes without saying that you're now an approved supplier. So there's no real general rule for everybody, but generally speaking, if somebody's going to approve your powders, it goes through a rigorous testing.
Yep.
As I mentioned in the past, typically they'll order a small amount, do some basic testing. If they like it, then they'll order a larger amount, build a part, and then they'll test that part, and then maybe they'll order even more and do batch-to-batch consistency. It's a rigorous testing that you go through. And depending on the client, they put different values at different aspects in different aspects of the process. So yes, we supplied our powder to this particular entity, and they did what they had to do, and it resulted in this contract, which again, George, is a minimum contract. So typically, we expect there to be a higher at the end of the day, a higher tonnage sold, but that's a minimum they guaranteed.
Yeah, 10,000 kilos is a major number. There have been questions online, and I've got to ask you because again, I know how these agree with my experience with the Gorecom. Sometimes these big customers, there's competitive reasons, there's all sorts of reasons they don't want detail out there. Can we talk about maybe the size of the contract? Are you able to give shareholders a range of how big this contract is? If you are, if I'm pushing too hard, let me know.
In terms of
revenue, in terms of
revenue.
Yeah,
people are asking us about revenue and profit and things like that, and we don't want to particularly speak to that because, as you know, we're also negotiating. We're in the process of negotiating, a different phase of negotiation, different contracts. So we wouldn't want to put out there some number that somebody refers to and uses it against us in the negotiating tables. But if you go into the marketplace, typically you'll find titanium powder selling anywhere from $200 a kilogram to $600 a kilogram. Depending on the volume, depending on whether it's to a university or it's got a future to it. So I'm not suggesting that's anywhere, and I'm talking about US dollars when I speak to that. But if you look at the lower end, and because it's volume, you might get somewhere close to what we're talking about. And that's I'm not saying anything out of school. It's public. If you go and you look in different places, you can find that range. It's readily available to those who want to look for it.
And safe to assume, given the fantastic financials you put out for the year earlier, a little while ago, that this is a profitable sale at the end of the day. This isn't a loss leader kind of sale. No, and people ask me for profits. Why not I say how profitable it is? Well, another thing you don't want to do is you don't want to tell your client how much money you're making off of them. It's kind of tough. I think in that context, people might be they might go and see what our previous profit margins are, and I'd suggest that maybe they're in line with that, at least. Yeah, and look, I have seen that question online myself, and I'll tell everybody at home, companies are not, especially at this magnitude, are not in the habit of announcing, profitability numbers, things like that. You just have to wait for the quarterlies, the subsequent quarterlies as these come out and see how it impacts the bottom line. But no doubt, I'm going to take another leap here of logic. No doubt, other sales should be coming. Am I right in reading between the lines here that when you strike a deal like this with a major client, you become approved, the rest of the industry sees this. Safe to assume that this brings in even more attention and speeds up the attention that you already have with other potential clients that are testing right now. I'm not sure, Drew. I mean, it's interesting, but I'm not sure. I can't speak for them. I don't see them panicking and rushing to conclude anything. No, I find that each one is moving with purpose based on their strategy and their guidelines. And so far, I don't see people rushing. I see them rushing. I find that our success, if you call it, in the market, this one in Drosrite, is moving with lightning speed. As it is. So I haven't seen anything happen to suggest that because of this particular contract, the people we're speaking to are accelerating. What I have seen is that as a result of this announcement, others who we haven't spoken to in the past taking an interest. Oh, okay. Because there's always a residual, somewhere. So that's great to hear. Let's talk about timelines. It's interesting you brought that up. How you're saying you're not seeing other people accelerate. I don't agree with this, but there are some people, some investors, some people on who think that these sales are taking too long. Now, my personal opinion, and everyone cares more about yours than mine, so maybe I should shut up, but my personal opinion is they're very complex and they just don't happen overnight. But I want to throw that question to you. What's your response when people saying, hey Peter, why are these sales taking too long? Mind you, most investors are extremely happy, but there's wondering about the time. What do you say to that? Well, I can understand that. I can understand how somebody thinks that, you got this great product. Why don't you stand on a soapbox in Central Park and talk about it, and people will just line up around the block. And I get that. But let me put it in the context of something that's closer to home with most people, and let's just say buying a house.
let's just say there's $1 million house and it's on the market. Someone says it's a great deal, $700,000. $300,000 profit right away. Just to do that deal is going to take 2 to 3 months to close, right?
Even if it's a deal of the century.
Even if it's a deal of the century, just to close a house, which everybody knows, and the process is there and it's well defined, takes about 3 months. But before you go down that line, you have to go talk to your husband or wife, the board of directors, right? Say, hey, we need permission. Does this make sense? And then you got to figure out, why is this house for sale at this price? Is it for real? So when you start adding these complexities in, and you're talking about a new technology, let's say for like additive manufacturing, people find out, as I said, this time last year, March of last year, we didn't even have a system up. Okay, so within that period of time, we've got world recognition. We're producing powders. People are sampling our powders. They're rushing to get them approved, and they're giving us contracts all within a year. So what these people have to do is, first of all, they have to take notice that we exist. They have to verify that we're not just smoke and mirrors. They have to go within their process, within these large companies, go to the board, go to whatever approval process there are, to actually accept our powders, because they have to pay for our powders. They have to get out of the budget, even as a small sample. They have to allocate the time and the testing in their system to our powders. This is all happening within a year. And when I say it's lightning fast, I don't see how it could go much faster. But I can understand how somebody who doesn't appreciate how complicated it is, and thinks, okay, you got powders, they're great. Why isn't somebody buying them? The same thing for Drosrite. In Drosrite, it's even more interesting, because you have at the plant, you have the plant manager, and then you have the guy in the finance department that's funding. There are two characters that you have to get both on side, and there's a dynamic playing between the two. Who runs the show in any particular company is different, and you got to market both of them. And we've done that very successfully in less than a year. So to those people that have that question, it's a valid question. It's a basic valid question. But when you put in the context of something every day, like buying a house, maybe they can appreciate it a little better, that we're doing amazing things. Things are lining up. The team is on side. The technology is basically being proven. I mean, the technology is being adopted. And it's a very exciting time here, George. I think
I'll let you with this. I've done a lot of stuff on the real estate side. I've done a lot of stuff on the technology side. And your example is amazing. Yeah. That's why when I look at these deals and considering this deal where you were last year, I'm amazed at how fast it was. And in fact, you actually said in the press release, you didn't expect this to happen, not this kind of a major inroad, before 2019 or even 2020.
Yeah, we have a very well articulated strategy for each of our products in every geographic area or industry. Very well articulated. This particular one, George, we did not think we'd get any traction at all before 2019, 2020 maybe.
So what does that say about the quality of the product? Because at the end of the day, that's what it comes down to. That you're able to get something done a year or two ahead of your own internal projections. And most companies internally, their projections are overly optimistic, right? And so even if you were, not saying that you were, but even if you were overly optimistic of 2019 or 2020, you got it done in 2018. What's the main reason? I know there are a lot. Is it the product quality?
Well, the product. The product, you can't move something fast if it's just half decent. I mean, our product is very, very good, first of all. Second of all, George, there's I believe a lack of powder availability, powder distributors. This type of powder that we're making for the additive manufacturing in this powder range and purity, I think it's rare. So I think those two things are working in our favor.
Congratulations, but we got to move on to the Drosrite. Usually we can interview there and talk a little more, but we got this whole Drosrite success to talk about. But I would like to end it off with hats off to you and your team. I can't believe how fast it happened. I can't believe the size of it. And you made it clear in your press release that you're expecting the potential for more volume to take place. And you're expecting the potential for also moving not just in titanium powder, but the client might also need nickel alloy powder. So it seems like this is beautifully open-ended.
It's open. It's just the beginning. We're very excited about where we are, George. And as I've said in my press releases in the past from the beginning, even from when we had our system up for the first few weeks, given the reaction to our product and what we're offering, it's just taken us by surprise how fast it's moving.
Normally right there I'd say, thanks for joining us, Peter. You put out a press release today. I'm going to read the headline, and before we get into details, I'm going to ask you to talk about Drosrite for a second, but the headline: Pyrogenesis announces successful demonstration of Drosrite system in India, expansion to zinc recovery, significantly increasing target market. Before the details, people understand what 3D printing is, so powders for 3D printing, a lot of people understand. For those of you new to the story, give us just a 30 to 60 second overview of what is Drosrite and why is it such a big market for you?
So what happens, what Drosrite does, it recovers a valuable metal from a particular waste stream in the metallurgical industry that occurs when a hot metal comes off and comes in contact with oxygen. So if an aluminum smelter, it comes off, it contacts oxygen, it forms a dross. They don't like that, so they scoop it off.
Right.
But they want to recuperate the metal that's in that dross. So typically it's sent to a third-party processor, which is off-site, because typically they use salt in the recovery process. And if salt comes in contact with alumina, it contaminates the batch. So it's typically off-site. And because it's off-site, and there's transportation and heating and cooling issues, it's quite expensive relative to our system that does not use salt. And we can actually put our system on the site, so we can recover we can take the dross hot, recover the metal, send it back hot. It's very economical in the sense of the process and the time and the recovery rates. In fact, we find that the recovery rates are 20% higher than they normally get, and we can do it at a fraction of the operating costs.
And this is a massive industry, obviously.
It's a massive industry in
the world. It's not. There isn't a part of the world that isn't touched by this.
That's right. So when you're looking at the different segments, be it aluminum, zinc, copper, we're concentrating on aluminum because that's where our first clients were, and there's primary, secondary, tertiary producers. So just in primary producers alone, we estimate that the target market is over $300 million. When you add in tertiary, which is our other target market, it probably is over 400 million. And that's just aluminum. And so what we do is, and how we market this is, we demonstrate the process at a facility with their own with their own dross and in the facility, and they pay for that. They're called paid for demonstrations, and we make a bit of money on it, but it basically differentiates the men from the boys, so to speak. Who's really serious. And every one of our contracts so far has been preceded by a paid-for demonstration. So what took place in India was our demonstration system we shipped over there. And by the way, it's fully booked to end of September. And the first demonstration over there was very successful. So we've had a successful demonstration, our facility for a paid-for demonstration. And now we're entering into discussions with that client for a purchase of a Drosrite system.
What's the basic? What's the general cost of a Drosrite system for people again who are new to pyro? What kind of revenues on something like that potentially?
Okay. So our first system sold for about $600,000. We managed to get the second system sold at $1 million. It was from the same client, so it was a reorder. Our target is roughly $1.5 million. Okay. So right now we're targeting anything between 1 and 1.5, and what we're trying to do is also incorporate a recurring revenue stream in some sort of a royalty or a maintenance agreement. So now we're moving towards, and it's going to be slow, but we're going to be moving towards higher priced Drosrite systems and or incorporating a revenue stream that's repetitive, maintenance contract, royalty, and things like that.
All right, so thanks for explaining that. So now in India, you had a successful demonstration with client A. So that's done, right? Demo's done. Now you're talking Turkey. So that'll take some time to get that to find out, if a sale happens and at what price. But what's even doubly exciting is client B. Again, you can't name the clients, which for everyone at home tells me when I read between the lines, these are meaningful clients at the end of the day.
People ask me why I don't name clients, George, and I'll be frank here. That's part of our know-how. That's part of what we've developed. So we prefer not to.
Yeah, to me,
and then sometimes you'll get you name a client, and investors will be calling up every day wanting a status. So we don't want our clients also to be inundated with investors' questions. So
I've actually seen that happen. I've actually seen that happen.
Oh yeah, it's happened.
Hey, all crazy shareholders are calling me, telling me if a deal's.
That's right.
So getting back to the meat of this, client B.
Yeah.
Which you describe as one of the biggest primary smelters of aluminum and zinc in the region.
That's correct.
Which is saying something.
Yeah.
Because the region's in. They have an estimated need of upward of 10 systems.
Yeah.
Where are you at with them in terms of testing and progress?
Okay, so right now what's interesting there is we were entering into an agreement for a paid for demonstration, but of zinc. Both of these client A and client B are big from another perspective, George. And that's what I also want to get across in the press release was that it's not just a one-off. You know, we've developed a relationship. We've talked to the plant manager and the financier, and they're moving forward on a paid for demonstration with client A. That demonstration is successful, and we're talking about now a purchase for that particular facility. But both of these targets that we've targeted have a significant need for other systems. So the second, third, fourth should be easier. And so client B, the one with the zinc, has, as you said, 10. The other one has 6. So we're looking at 16 systems within those two umbrellas, which that's another point. When we target something, we try to target a client that has significant other systems potential orders. It's just the best use of assets and time and effort.
Yeah. It takes as much time to make 2 sales as to make 10.
That's right.
Why not
so once we're in, we think it's going to roll out faster. Now, with respect to client B and zinc, that's really, really significant, George, because what it has done is it's opened up another market, recovering zinc from the zinc dross. And when you add that to the aluminum market, we estimate it's probably at least half as big, maybe as big as aluminum. So close to doubling our target market by having introduced this concept to this client. We're very excited about that. 6 months ago, 8 months ago, we had just sold our first system. We hadn't sold our second system. We sold our second system. Now we're in discussions with other systems. We're entered into zinc. It's all lining up very nicely, George. We're very excited here.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, it's clear from talking to you, and it's clear from what you tell us in the press releases. Something else I found very important in today's news was that such strong demand that you've had to set up another system just to deal with North America.
Yes.
A test system, a second demonstration unit just for North America. That tells me, am I right to assume that you've got demand already from people saying, hey, we may want a demonstration of this, and you're telling them, well, our current systems are tied up in India till September, and you've got to go for another one?
Exactly, George. If we had to bring back our system from India right now and deploy it in North America, it would take a long time. It would be somewhere in 2019 where we would be booking appointments in North America. We expect that our demonstration system in India will be there for a while, executing on paid for demonstrations. So it just behooved us to look at it, and we got to hit when the iron's hot. There's interest in North America. We need a demonstration system here. Let's build it. And we looked, and we're going to start booking appointments in North America sometime towards the end of the summer, beginning of in September, just to make sure it's here, it's up and running properly. We don't want to book an appointment and not be able to have our demonstration system ready. So basically, that's right, George. There's a lot of interest. If we had a second demonstration system right now, we definitely would have demonstrations booked in North America.
So that'll be ready for end of summer? Yeah,
during the summer, we're going to finish it off. And then once we're confident that it's going to be ready, we're going to start booking appointments.
Peter, I'm going to end my questions there. And I want to go to big umbrella for the last thing from you. How happy are you with the progress of Pyro? Because this is not easy. And how do you see the rest of the year going throughout the entire company? And you decide where you want to be specific, but how do you see the rest of the year unfolding? Because
George, I couldn't have asked for anything more for where we are year over year. I look at things in terms of where we are last year, where we are today, and where we're going towards. And I think you're going to see the same type of development and progress over the next year. We're extremely excited here. Don't forget, we have the U.S. military also going to order a second aircraft carrier, maybe a third one. I mean, third and fourth one. We've already delivered 2, and that should be happening in the second half of this year. So from my perspective, the stars are lining up. They couldn't line up better. And we've got a great team here. They are celebrating here. They've been validated. They're very excited. And we've got a great investor base who are appreciative of what we're doing. And George, I can't say anything more. I mean, we're just exactly where we want to be.
Peter, congratulations. I really, I've had over 300 clients. I've dealt with probably 2,000 to 3,000 small cap companies. I know how hard it is to get anything off the ground. And what you and your team are doing there on the aircraft carrier side, on the whole defense side, the powders, the Drosrite. We haven't even talked about the HPQ silicon and what you're doing over there, right? We'll save that for another time. You guys are something I've never seen before. And Tesla's going to be coming out saying Elon Musk is the Peter Pascali.
Well, I told you, George, last time. You don't have it right. Elon Musk is the Peter Pascali of the South, and soon he's going to get it right, I think. Thanks a lot, George.
Congratulations, Peter, to you and everyone. You've been watching Peter Pascali. He's president and CEO of Pyrogenesis Canada. The company trades on TSX Venture Exchange under the stock symbol PYR, and for our friends in the U.S. on the OTCQB under PYRNF. What you've got to do here, I implore all of you. The one thing I can't do is tell people to go buy stock because that's not my job and I can't do it. But do your due diligence. I've been in this business long enough in this industry to know which small cap companies are dreamers and which small cap companies are doers. And this is an elite group, and Pyrogenesis there. Get to their website, pyrogenesis.com. Take a look around. Then get to Agoracom. Read the profile, watch the previous interviews, and most importantly, Peter's one of the few CEOs that's made himself accessible on a moderated discussion forum on Agoracom. Go there right now. You see fantastic, beautiful questions and answers the way it should be. No profanity, none of the nonsense, just high quality. So use that resource. And if you got questions, Peter will answer them for you. And Peter, sound like you're putting your hand up. Go ahead. You got something there to add?
No, I was going to say, if people have questions, please use the Agoracom forum. I try to answer them as quickly as possible. They're good questions. I try to answer them. It's always within the context of public information. But sometimes people need a little bit more clarity as to what I was talking about, and you can find it there or post the question there, and I'll answer it as soon as I can.
Yeah, and that tells me, that tells me it's that third-party stuff that when a company is hitting these kind of milestones and making themselves accessible both on video and online, it means the confidence is at its peak. Otherwise, you just wouldn't be doing it. So thanks for joining us, everyone. Peter, thanks again, my man. I can't wait till we have you back on. Have a great
George.
day. Talk to you soon.
All the best to you and your crew. Bye.
Thank you.